Hi there, this is Andrew with XLaser. I do product development here on our laser systems and software, and joining me today is Dustin Derry of Stonewolf Studios, and today we're talking about XLERATE, which is the tool that we're releasing now for pre-visualizing, planning, and preparing your shows involving Mercury lasers. So Dustin is a lighting designer out of Chicago, does theater, dance, corporate stuff. Has been working with us on getting the software up and running, and we're going to talk about how XLERATE can be used within your workflow to visualize shows involving Mercury lasers, along with other conventional and moving light equipment. So Dustin, if you want to show us what you've got going on here, and we'll get started.
Cool. Hi, I'm Dustin from Stonewolf Studios, and I actually am a lighting designer based here in Chicago. We do a lot of corporate events, dance events, and live music as well. And we also do video and projection design. So we kind of cover the whole gamut here. We work with all kinds of clients from small to large to little 20 to 30 seat venues with a couple bar cans, all the way up to full-on arena tours. So we kind of do a little bit of everything, and I'm starting to find more and more. Adding lasers into the mix is becoming a strong choice for a lot of groups, even some of my smaller dance companies.
And so as part of your process, do you already use a lot of visualization for your shows, even before you're getting into lasers and video, to kind of sell that to clients and talk about your concepts and things?
Yeah, it's actually been a really, really handy tool since I started investing in pre-vis, back in like 2006 or something like that, is to be able to say, hey, I've been thinking about these ideas for your show, and so here's what I'm thinking. I can actually, instead of talking about it and having them kind of have their eyes glaze over and go, I don't know what you're saying, dude, I can actually show them a picture and say, hey, I want this for this scene, and I want to do this with graphics, and when I say things like, hey, I want to do projection mapping, and my clients look at me and go, what does that mean? I can go, here's a picture of a building that I drew sitting at home, and here's your graphics on it. So it's a really, really handy way for me to communicate ideas and concepts, but then I also use pre-vis a lot for pre-programming and actually getting us into the show process and being able to cut down on my tech time in the venue and help save the clients a little bit of money so that we're a little more ahead of the game.
Right, and visualizers have been kind of mature technology in the lighting industry for a while now, as far as visualizing lighting and then increasingly visualizing video, so video walls, projections, as you said. So, and for a while now, you've also been able to visualize lasers if you're using laser software, either from Laser Animation Solinger or from Penguin. They both have the facility to send laser data to a visualizer so that you can integrate that into your overall show in Capture, Realizzer, or various other visualizers. So with our Mercury lasers, we don't have any software involved, so everything is designed to be controlled directly from the console. The console sends DMX to the laser does all the content playback and manipulation, does color control, does size control, position, manipulates the image and warps it in all kinds of different ways. So what we've done in order to get the lasers that we produce into visualization is release a tool called XLERATE. So XLERATE takes the same DMX data from your console as the laser does the same kind of manipulations, and then sends pre-visualization data out to Capture or Realizzer. And that's what Dustin has set up here. So we've got Chamsys, that's Magic PC, right?
Yeah, we're on Magic PC. It was a little bit easier to just run my wing on my desk instead of getting the MQ500 out and trying to make that all work at the same time on my little desk.
Right, so any standard lighting console, whether you use Chamsys, whether you use AVO or MA or HOG or anything else, you can send that DMX data to a real Mercury laser and to be able to have powerful control over that laser content. Or now you can send it to XLERATE and have that drive your visualization of lasers. So we have XLERATE here. Dustin's got this set up with his Chamsys system and XLERATE and Realizzer running here. So do you want to walk us through your setup here?
Yeah, we got a couple different things going on, like Andrew said. We have XLERATE, which is the big tool that we're talking about today, which is really, really handy for me. We have also Chamsys MQ PC, which is here. Right now, what I have loaded up is actually a demo show that I use for the lasers, for the Mercuries, to kind of show off what the features are in a real organized way, and then be able to play and kind of do my own little live streams every now and again on the internet. And then we have my favorite pre-vis tool, which is Realizzer. I know that a lot of people prefer Capture, or WYSIWYG, or Vision, or whichever way they go. I just personally like Realizzer because of the graphics rendering engine. It makes a little bit better use of modern graphics cards and has worked a little stronger for me out of the box. And it does have controls built into it that do respect beam divergence and beam power within the software, and also is able to simulate laser flicker to some extent. It's not truly accurate, but it's definitely a good idea to be able to show people from the get-go.
Every visualizer has its strengths and weaknesses, and some of its personal preference, just like lighting consoles are, really.
Yeah.
And one of the things we should mention too is performance-wise. Obviously, visualization is graphics intensive, and you have I assume a pretty stout setup there for when you're visualizing all kinds of lasers and media and so forth. One of the neat things that just to throw this out there too is that doesn't necessarily have to be a limitation on the quality of your output, because I know Capture, and I assume Realizzer as well, where if you want to do a high quality video or image, you can actually record the incoming media as sort of a stream of the raw control data, of the raw media data. So you might be sitting there doing some pre-programming where your frame rate just drops really low because you've got a giant rig, you got lots of lasers, lots of video, and your computer just whatever graphics card you have eventually is going to get pushed to its limit. But you can have the visualizer actually record all that incoming data and then render it out at its leisure. So you're not necessarily tied to having to have this monster PC to do good quality video. It'll take you a little bit longer, but you can have all that incoming data be recorded and then rendered out at a much slower rate, where you get the higher quality. You're not bound to your real-time performance.
Right, and that's actually something that I do. I actually find that, yeah, you're absolutely right. When I'm visualizing larger rigs, I definitely have to scale back. Not scale back. I have to set up all my cues, know that there's going to be a little bit of frame lag when I'm kind of programming the ideas, and then go back and re-render that so that it renders at the 3 frames a second that my tower can actually handle, rather than the full 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second on the video that I want to watch. I pride myself. I'm a techno nerd to the max, and my rendering tower, 32 gigs of RAM, dual 1080 Ti NVIDIA cards for my video processing, and SSDs up the wazoo. And Realizzer and Capture both still will bog down a little bit when I start to get into, moving around 100 moving lights, plus lasers, plus video, plus all of that. So yeah, I can't actually just record the output. We need to do a frame-by-frame rendering, which will take a half hour to 45 minutes for a 5-minute video, because it does actually push that down depending on what the rig actually looks like. So one of the advantages of actually working in pre-vis is simplicity and being able to work with more lasers than I would normally be able to work with. Like if I want to actually take a laser and see what 1 or 2, maybe even 3 lasers look like through haze, I can go ahead and set them up here in my living room, no problem, and write a little show and have a good night and be everything. But if I want to do something bigger and think bigger and dream bigger, and do something more like we did for LDI, where we had 20 lasers in the rig, it's not really doable to do that in my living room, because we can't really set up 20 lasers with all the power that we need, plus truss, plus everything else, and make the show look exactly like what it's going to look like in real life. So at that point, it becomes really, really advantageous for me to be able to work in a software like Realizzer to be able to go ahead and build cues, build content, and go ahead and try to create a full show without actually being in the venue. One thing that works really well for my process is if I'm doing a time-coded show, it actually works. I have a bunch of different layers that I actually have to go through to kind of get to where I'm going. I start with actually working on the audio track in a quick software called Reaper that allows me to mark up the track and then take that track and that markup list and import it directly into Chamsys as a timecode track, so that I already have my cues built exactly where I want them, and then I just have to insert all the data. And that's actually what I did for the LDI show. It made it really easy, and where some laserists doing the same type of show, it would take them weeks or months to be able to do everything in one of the other softwares, I was able to program a whole 6-minute show in all of maybe 4 or 5 hours. So it's a big time savings for me to not have to, and money savings to not have to do everything in the venue all the time. So just to kind of give you an idea, let's go ahead and actually look at Realizzer. I'm just going to go ahead and fire this Q stack and let you guys take a look at what the graphics are doing here while it rolls. And kind of show this is actually 15 lasers, or no, I'm sorry, all 19 lasers. And I'm using almost all builders and all lasers most of the time. I know you can't actually hear the audio here because I've actually turned that down because it's a little bit, gets a little loud because it's a very heavy metal sort of song going on here. But you can actually see, and we'll even go back to the split view here. You can actually see that, watch Chamsys is actually tapping through its cues right now. And you can actually see, because I did this in capture on the, well, you can't see my finger pointing at the screen. You can see that Chamsys is so beautiful, it actually takes screenshots from your visualizer and associates them with the cues, so you actually kind of know what each cue is going to look like in the stack before it ever even fires. Super handy little trick. It's not huge, but it definitely has saved me a lot of like, wait, what's this cue do? All that sort of confusion.
So you came to lasers as a lighting designer, so you have experience with doing, all lighting rigs where you're using nothing but lights and moving lights and conventionals, and then also video as well. So how does adding lasers to your shows integrate with your existing workflow for designing lighting and projections and other video?
Before Mercury was a thing, it was actually kind of difficult because there was another control surface that I had to deal with, another entire set of software that I had to learn and add to my repertoire, which I'm a tech guy and I'm a nerdy guy and I like those sorts of things, so it's not really that big of a deal for me, but it did take up a lot of extra time. So as a lighting designer coming to Mercury, it's a beautiful thing for me because it literally, these lasers, instead of thinking like, oh, I got to use this software and all that, I set it down and I think of it just as another moving light. It just happens to have a bunch of really cool gobos in it that I can manipulate in more ways than just spin them around and take them out of focus.
So when you're starting to conceive of a show or starting to pitch a show to a customer, how do you go about getting started? So if you've got, starting from a blank slate, what's kind of your process for getting going, getting into that design groove, getting your tools set up? What's kind of that process for getting started for you?
Gotcha. A lot of it deals with I start very plainly in Vectorworks at first. As I'll draw out the set, I'll kind of get the rig together, kind of get my mind together, and where I want to be for things, kind of know where my gear is going to set, what kind of trussing I'm going to have, all the bits and pieces that you would normally do as a lighting designer. And then once I do that, then I'll go ahead and take that model and what I've done in Vectorworks and import it into Realizzer. And unfortunately, with the way Realizzer works, I got to actually re-add the lights. Currently, they said that there's an update coming that I won't have to do that anymore. But currently, I have to re-add my lights and re-add my lasers and do some connections and little networking things here and there. No big deal. And then when we start to get into more advanced things, and I want to start to throw in projection and lasers, it actually now with XLERATE, it's become really, really easy for me to do that. XLERATE, I interface with XLERATE in my process maybe for 20 minutes at a time. And then once I have the show built, or have the little virtual rig built in XLERATE, I minimize that sucker after I've enabled it, and I don't touch it again until I shut everything down at the end of the night. That's the beauty of XLERATE, is there's not a lot I have to do with it unless I want to use some of the other features, like some of the content tools or that sort of thing. Actually, as a lighting designer, it's really, really simple. It feels much like a patch interface on any console. So we'll actually start from the beginning here. I'll start with a fresh file. Once I've done everything in Realizzer, built everything, kind of put my lasers where you want, then I'll usually move over here to XLERATE and start there. So we'll go ahead and click on Virtual Laser Rig, and there's nothing in here. So we'll come up here to Fixtures, and we're going to do Add New. This thing where you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to say Basic Builder 1 because I want to add 20 of these and I want to know where I'm headed. Then you can go ahead and pick your model, and then pick which personality that you want to use here. There's a lot of options here. I generally opt for the 6x Basics Builder, which is the 174 channel mode, because that's how I use my lasers most of the time. then we step down here to universe. Remember that these are based on ArtNet numbers, so if your console like ETC calls universe 1, remember that it is ArtNet 0 for that first universe. And then you pick your DMX starting address. Now, we go here and look for the content packs. Oh man, there is nothing there. So, oh shoot, we need to go ahead and add it. So let's go ahead and click on this little link down here called Add Content Pack. We're going to browse to our folder where we know what our content pack is. Go ahead and select it, hit open, and there we go. And then it'll appear in the drop down right here for you. Go ahead and select that. I know that right now I'm just going to patch one of these, so we're going to put one, hit apply, boom, and there is our laser ready to go. The next step to that is going to actually be able to enable all of the network features. So we're going to go to Setup, Network. I had already enabled this because I was working here, but you want to actually pick which protocol on which visualizer you want to go to, and go ahead and enable ArtNet. When you do that, if you're already set up in Realizzer, things should pop up, but we need to actually go map these in Realizzer real quick. So we'll go ahead and enable those. Total sidebar, and Andrew, I don't know if you actually realize that we could do this. If I enable capture, I can actually output to both of these bad boys at the same time on different systems as long as they're sitting on the same network.
Yes, you can.
Which was a really fun thing for me to discover the other day when I had both up and running, and I was like, oh wow, I can actually do a side-by-side comparison of the exact same rig on Capture and Realizzer. But that's something we'll deal with probably a little bit later. So we're going to go ahead and hit close because we know what this is. And then from now, I'm going to minimize XLERATE. I'm not going to touch it again until I'm done or if I have to add more lasers. So we're going to move here over to Realizzer, and I'm going to go down here. I've already built this rig, so I'm just going to show you actually what we're going to be looking at. And we are going to move over here, and I know that my first laser is going to be under front graphics here, M5 basic. And over on the right-hand side here, I'll try to make that a little bigger for you. We need to actually scroll down until we see laser, which is right here. Make sure that click active, and then you want to select your laser source. Realizzer does much like ETC, and they start everything counting on 1 rather than 0. So your laser source 1 in Realizzer is actually going to correspond to XLaser's feed 0. And that's it. Once we do that, actually in Realizzer, here's where you actually, if you wanted to get a little bit cute and play with beam diameters and divergence and power, you can actually set those things here as well. And that's about it. Once we're patched there, I go ahead and you patch into your console like you would do with any other console and with any other light ever. Go ahead and follow whatever steps through patch you normally would, and then voila, you should have laser output in your favorite visualizer, and be able to step through all of the gobos and do anything that you want. And that's about it. It's really that easy.
So I think that about covers it. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the links in the video description for more info on XLERATE, as well as links to the various demo files and tutorials and things that we'll be releasing shortly. Also check out xcelerate.x-laser.com, where you can download XLERATE for free and start trying it out. We'll also have links there to Dustin's work. Dustin, anything else you want to share with the audience here about what you're doing, where they can find you?
Actually, the best place to find us is on the internets or the interwebs, depending on your preference, at www.stonewolf.com, where you can see a smattering of what we do. And we do have it does show on our website when I go live and do my late night lasers web stream every so often when I get bored and want to show off some new tricks.
Yeah, Dustin's been doing some really amazing stuff with his lasers, just playing around in his spare time. So definitely check those live streams out if you have a chance. Thanks for watching.
Great. Thanks, guys.